Hello and welcome to episode 4 of How to Play Vietnam. In episode 3 we did the first half of the politics phase, which covers South Vietnamese officer replacement, coup determination. Now we're going to start with South Vietnamese morale adjustment. The South Vietnamese morale starts at 65 and it is recorded here. Certain effects that impact South Vietnamese morale are recorded immediately, such as coup, unstable government, unrestrained bombing of the North, etc., etc. They would be applied immediately rather than waiting to the politics phase. That is recorded right here during turn. And then there are certain things which are applied only during the politics phase. For example, the amount of population controlled by South Vietnam, the amount of new commitment that the U.S. provided on the previous seasons. You look at the previous season, you see how much commitment the U.S. added or subtracted, and that will increase or decrease South Vietnamese morale. Then we have the Commander-in-Chief. The number to the left is how much the South Vietnamese morale is reduced every political phase. So in this case, General TU is -3. The final category is every third capital captured by the NLF in the preceding season. This will be marked with a marker, a captured capital marker. If you get up to 3 of those, -1. You get up to 6 of those, -2. So the modifiers that apply during the politics phase are recorded here. You come up with the final South Vietnamese morale for the turn after adding and subtracting the appropriate modifiers. The last step in South Vietnamese morale segment is to check the loyalty shifts of South Vietnamese leaders. So all you do at this point is you cross-reference the current morale with 2 dice. So you roll 2 dice. You subtract 1 if the last season was an offensive season for the NLF, a la like the Tet offensive or something like that. So let's say we were at 70 morale and we rolled a 6. It says -1 to A only. You'll notice that your leaders in the leadership box, so this leadership box here where we have all of our leaders, you'll notice that the leaders, all except the Commander-in-Chief, have a letter, A, B, or C. So in this case, -1 to all A's, we would take everybody that had an A and we would drop them 1 box. So their loyalty would be reduced. At the beginning of the game, U.S. morale is 520. There are certain effects that are applied immediately, say bombing the North, a coup in South Vietnam. Those are recorded here during turn. Certain effects are applied during the political phase, which is where we are now. The 3-star leader. General TU has no impact on U.S. morale, the number to the right of the slash. Some of the things that affect the U.S. morale during the political phase are population controlled in South Vietnam. The more population controlled by South Vietnamese government, the better. And another is U.S. commitment. Now, I've referred to commitment without really explaining what it is. Let me explain what it is. So, at the beginning of the game, U.S. commitment is 25. And that is generally going to go up throughout the game. Every time you bring new troops in, add more aircraft, send more supplies to South Vietnam, for example, that costs commitment. So your commitment is increased. So the level of U.S. commitment has a negative effect on U.S. morale. Other things that affect U.S. morale, sending new troops in or sending new commitment to South Vietnam reduces U.S. morale. Invading Laos, Cambodia, losing provincial capitals in the previous season. So you'll have these markers on the map, and during the previous season, that'll be marked. And then we have attacks during an NLF offensive, a la like the Tet offensive. And then you get a kick if you destroy more than 30 battalion equivalents of NLF troops. So Quang Tri and Hue, those are examples of capitals. Obviously, if you lose Saigon, you lose the game. But you can lose Quang Tri and Hue, and there's a negative effect on morale. After U.S. morale is adjusted, you remove the captured capitals markers from the map, and the NLF will have to either retake them or still be squatting there when their turn comes around. Adjustments to U.S. morale during the politics phase are noted here. So you take the starting morale and during turn and politics phase to come up with the ending morale for this turn. North Vietnamese morale starts at 10. And much like the U.S., the North Vietnamese have commitment, and the commitment cannot exceed their morale. Same is true for the U.S. There are no events that cause North Vietnamese morale to drop during the season, and this box is generally considered to be errata. Changes to North Vietnamese morale during the politic phase are based on U.S. commitment. So whatever the current U.S. commitment is, however, how much effort the U.S. has put into the fight in South Vietnam affects North Vietnamese morale. The more U.S. puts in, the more their morale goes up. So for example, if the U.S. commitment was 158, for example, that'd be plus 15 each turn to North Vietnamese morale. 20% of U.S. new commitment is added as a positive modifier to North Vietnam. And the current North Vietnamese morale also pulls itself up. So the higher North Vietnamese morale goes, the faster it goes up. So that modification during the politics phase is recorded here. So you take the starting morale and changes during the politics phase to come up with an ending morale for the summer. In episode 5, we're going to discuss recruitment, bringing in new U.S. forces and new NLF forces. We'll see you next time.